All right, guys, we're in 7.3 today, percents and decimals. We're in our textbooks on page 340. This is, you're going to notice in a couple ways, this is very similar to what we learned in 7.1. We're just looking at conversions between percents, decimals, even fractions. You're going to just, again, kind of learn the relationship between the three of them. I don't know where they come up with these examples. Pygmy hippos. I don't know. Who knows? It says the African pygmy hippo is the smallest species of the hippopotamus. Suppose a common adult hippo weighs 5,600 pounds and an adult pygmy hippo's weight is 10.5% of the hippo's weight. How much does the hippo weigh? Well, remember what we talked about. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but when we talked about when we have to multiply percentages, yes, there's the percent button in your calculator, but assuming that we don't know that that button exists, when I multiply a percentage by a number, I have to first change that percentage to a decimal. So that's what it's saying here, okay? You don't have to write this down, but basically that's what the statement is saying right here, that 0.25 equals 25%. You need to know how percentages convert to decimals, right? That's going to be part of the work that you show in the lesson tomorrow. So to write a decimal as a percent, you move the decimal point 2 places to the right and write a percent sign. To write a percent as a decimal, you go the other way. You move it 2 places to the left and you remove the percent sign. Now, why is it 2 decimal places? Why not 1? Anybody know? Because we're what? Because you're taking it out of 100. If you were taking it out of 10, you would move it 1. If you're taking it out of 1,000, you'd move it 3. That's why you move it 2, because you're dealing with 100. All right, let me just mark this slide so it captures. All right, so that's what all it's talking about on this one. So how does it look in an example? It says, write 0.621 and 2.3 as percents. So one of these is less than 1. One of these is 1. And 1 is a little more than 1. All of these as percents. Well, again, decimal to percent, okay, which way do I move it? Left or right? I'll move it to the right 2 places. So 0.62 is the equivalent of 62%. But 1 doesn't have a decimal, or does it? It's after the 1, right? So if I move my decimal 2 places to the right, what does it make it? 100. And doesn't that make sense? 1 is the same thing as 100% because it's the total. It's the whole. 100%. Well, on the last one, it's more than 1. I already have 1 number in my decimal. Anybody have an idea what it's going to be? 230%. Move the decimal 2 places, and it's 230%. Any questions? You see, so on your homework tonight, you literally have 2, 4, 6. So 6 of them is just this, okay? Your first 6 problems is writing the decimal as a percent. Jonah?
So this could go up as high as like double-digit whole numbers.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yep. All right, anything over 1 is going to be more than 100%. Anything less than 1 is going to be less than 100%. All right, so that's example 1. Now, example 2, we're just going the other way. Okay, now we're writing a percent as a decimal. So now I have 75%, 0.4%, and 168%. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, probably the hardest thing is going to be to remember is which way to move your decimal. But think about it this way. This way always helps me. A percentage is always out of how many? Out of what? 100. That is division, right? 75 over 100, that's division. So when you divide, you move your decimal to the left. That's how I remember. So 75%, I move my decimal to the left 2 places because I'm essentially dividing, right? I'm dividing. So 0.75 is my decimal. There's no work to show. Write the original problem, write your decimal, box it in, and you're done. All right, I want you to try the next two. 0.4% or 0.4% and 168%. All right, so 0.4% is going to be what as a decimal? Point, how many zeros? 0.004. And drop the percent. So if you put a percent sign here, it's going to be wrong because it's not a percent anymore. You converted it to a decimal. What about 168%? 1.68. And that makes sense because it's going to be more than 1 because it was more than 100%. Okay, so 1.68, and don't forget to drop your percent sign. Any questions on example 2? Anything? All right. So, all right. So example 3. Writing fractions as percents. Well, we know that fractions, decimals, and percents all can represent the same number. So you're going to see 3 steps here, and all 3 numbers essentially have the same value. Let's start with 3/8. We're going to first start by writing 3/8 as a decimal. Put it in your calculator and convert it to a decimal. What'd you get? 0.375. Now that you have a decimal, you can now write it as a percentage. What would it be as a percentage? 37.5%. Okay? Now, on your homework tonight, I do want to see this middle step here. Okay? Change the fraction to a decimal, change the decimal to a percent, and you're good to go. All right? So now do 5/3 and 7/9 the same way. All right, so this is going to be 0.667. I'm going to round to the nearest thousandth. And then that's going to be 66.7%. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Did you forget your coffee this morning?
All right, so it's going to be 1 point, probably not the wisest thing to say. 1.667 equals 166.7%. What's going to be my third one? Is it 0.778? It's another repeating decimal? Okay, so 0.778 equals, or approximately, 77.8%. All right, questions, guys? Any questions? So back at the beginning of the lesson, remember we talked about the pygmy hippos? The pygmy hippos, they're like smaller versions of hippos. Okay, and it's a little cute little hippo. I kind of want to see a picture of one. Maybe y'all can Google some tonight and bring them tomorrow. All right, so 10.5, huh? Oh, there is? Oh, yeah, there is. There's a cute little one. Just looks like a mini hippo, I guess. All right, so it's 10.5% of a standard size hippo's weight. Well, how do you find a percentage of a weight? Here's what I want to see on your homework tonight. I want to see you change it to a decimal, 0.105, and multiply it by the total, 5,600. And then you're going to get, did anybody do it?
588.
All right, so 588. And just remember, anytime it's a word problem, you just want to make sure you label 588 pounds. So this is much closer to what you would see on your homework assignment. So on your homework tonight, it's just going to say find 20% of 85. So you write the original problem. You convert your percentage to a decimal, 0.2, and you multiply it by 85. Again, I recognize that there's a percent, button in your calculator. I understand that. But I want to know that you understand how to convert a percentage to a decimal. So that's why I need to see this step. And then 0.2 times 85 is what? 17. All right, go ahead and do the next three real quick. All right, so my next percentage as a decimal is what? 0.038 times 45. And what's that one going to be? 1.71. All right, and then 1.25 times 64 is 80. And then this one's going to be a small one, 0.005 times 600 is 3. Okay? All right, so that's basically all you're doing on that section of your homework tonight. So you've got 2, 4 like that at least, maybe 5. All right, now the last thing I want to go over is two things real quick. And we talked about this back in 7.1 also. If you're comparing, let's say, 150% to 5/3, 100%, and 3/4. What do you think you're going to do? I mean, you obviously can't just say, okay, this one's bigger than this one. What are you going to do? You're going to make them all decimals. Like I said, we talked about that in 7.1. Now we're just kind of throwing into the mix that, that yes, everything needs to be a decimal. So go ahead and change them all to decimals and then put them in order back in their original format from least to greatest. 150% is what as a decimal? 1.5, right? 2.0, what's 5/3? 1.667. And then I've got 1. And then I have 0.75, right? Okay, so which one's the smallest? 3/4, clearly. All right, so I've got 3/4. Then what? 100%. Then what? 150%. Then? 2. All right, and that's it. All right, so you have one of those. And then we have another substitution problem where it says K% of 67 when K equals 10. So you just have to show your substitution and then multiply. All right, so go ahead and do that. We plug in the 10%. Are you good if I just go ahead and change it to a decimal? Yeah. So we just cannot write that step twice. Okay, so 0.1 times 67 gives me what? 6.7, and then just box it in. Okay, so I'm good with that. Just write the original problem and then go ahead and change it to decimal and multiply. All right, so if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 7.3.